What is up, guys? My name is Jason, and welcome to the Conspirators podcast channel, where I talk about everything from the unexplained to the completely insane. Due to the nature of the channel, some content may not be suitable for some audiences, so listener discretion is advised. Alright, welcome back, guys, to another episode of the Conspirator, where we dive into another missing 411 case. We're going back to Arkansas this week to look at the disappearance of Katherine van Alst. Katherine disappeared on the 16th of June in 1946 in the Devil's Den State Park. Now, to start off, Katherine was the youngest child in the Van Alst family, being 8 years old. Katherine had two older brothers and obviously her parents that were going on holiday to the Devil's Den State Park. They were all the way out from Kansas. Now, it said that they were renting this cabin out in the state park for what may have been a holiday or just a getaway, whatever it be, that was close by to this little dam that wasn't far off. Now, obviously, kids being kids, Katherine and her brothers wanted to go play at this dam and go see what it was and go swimming and everything like that. One version of the story states that Katherine went with her brothers to the dam without her parents and got tired while they were swimming and everything, left early, and was then not seen again from that point. She went missing on the walk home. Not much is given on those details, like they don't talk about much of what happened at the dam. All that is basically known is that she left with her brothers returned, and that is when they realized Katherine was missing. The brothers thought she had left to go home early. The parents thought she was still with the brothers, and that is obviously when the authorities were contacted. The other version of the story, where Dad goes with them to the dam, does have a lot more detail in it, whether it's just storytelling at its finest, or if these were recorded cases. I'm not entirely sure. This is just information I found through my research. However, it is said that Katherine's dad obviously took the two boys and little Katherine to go swimming at the dam. So they obviously went down the path from the cabin, obviously walked their way down through all the camping sites and stuff like that, because it seems that this was like a whole camping area around this dam. They get there, and obviously there's a lot more people there. There's all the kids swimming, parents and adults and stuff all around. And Dad decides to stay on the shoreline, so Mr. Van Alst just watches as Katherine and her two brothers go dive in and swim. There was a dam wall that kind of went around the back of this dam. It's like a not very steep, like a very slow gradient kind of drop off of these like rocky boulders and stuff, where some kids were actually all playing on as well, which led down to another pool of water at the bottom. The dam itself at the top side got a bit deeper around the dam wall, and that's kind of just like how the location worked. So obviously, Katherine, only being 8, not exactly a strong swimmer, at some point apparently drifted off into the deeper water without her dad noticing. And as she obviously got tired, a woman noticed her struggling, so obviously helped fish Katherine out along near the dam wall. And, obviously being concerned about her, ask her, "You're right, like, Shane, you must be careful, if you're not a strong swimmer, if you get tired, you can drown." At this point, Katherine's dad obviously notices her talking to some strange woman, and, now concern goes over it. Ask, like, "Is everything all right? Is something wrong?" The woman, obviously noticing this and noticing his concern, immediately tells him, "No, don't worry. I was just helping your daughter here. I saw she was struggling, so I helped her out." So, Mr. Van Alst obviously thanks the woman profusely for helping his daughter and, making sure she was okay. Turns to tell Katherine, "Kat, you need to be more careful. You're not a strong swimmer. You got to stay out of the deeper water. You got to be careful. Something bad can happen." So Katherine thanks the woman, and agrees with her father and decides, she's not going to go back into the dam, but instead she's going to play with the other kids along the rocky section down behind the dam. Now, Katherine's dad obviously goes back to the bank and positions himself where he can kind of walk between where he can see Katherine and where he can see the boys, so that he can watch all three of his kids. So as he's like walking back and forth between the two locations to watch to check if little Catherine's okay, and then just venture back up and look over to see if the boys are doing fine. At some point, he goes over to look at the boys. He sees them swimming and enjoying themselves, still having fun, and turns to go back to Catherine, and he can't see her. So he doesn't immediately start panicking. Everything's fine. He kind of heads back over, to see maybe she's moved around slightly further down the rocks, or maybe she's sitting down or crouching over, and she's just out of view. So he obviously walks back down, takes a look, looks around, can't see Catherine, so calls out to her, Catherine, like, are you there? Like, where are you? And nothing. Nothing. He doesn't hear back. He can't hear her. He can't see her. So now, obviously, getting a bit more concerned, a bit more worried, looks around. She's nowhere to be seen on those rocks. Carries on looking around. Carries on as far around as he can see to see the other end of the rocks. And Catherine's simply not there. He checks the pool at the bottom. She's not there. Heads back up to the top and calls his sons over to, check with them. Like, did Catherine maybe come back up without me seeing? Did I not notice? Is she with you? Both the sons said, I don't know. We don't know where she is. We haven't seen her. He carries along the dam wall, looking for Catherine, checking the river, checking the dam, checking the pool at the bottom. Sees the lady that originally helped Catherine and, asks her, like, hi, sorry, do you perhaps happen to know where my daughter is? Did you see her? Have you seen her? The woman says, no, the last I saw her, she was playing down here on the rocks. I haven't seen her. So at this point, Catherine's dad is now starting to panic. Catherine is gone. He can't find her. And as a parent, he obviously starts to assume the worst. So everyone's now jumping into the dam and swimming around, looking for Catherine. Parents and other kids are searching in the surrounding woods around this dam. Everyone's calling out to her and searching. And after about an hour, Catherine's dad is now in a full-blown panic and, decides, this is enough. He needs to call the authorities that Catherine is gone. So he obviously runs with the boys and heads back to the cabin and contacts the authorities. At this point, the police arrange about what was said to be about 200 searches that are to go out into this surrounding area and into this extremely dense forest of the Arkansas Devil State Park. And, just no sign of Catherine. 2 days go past in this dense forest and nothing. So at this point, they assumed maybe unfortunately they have to assume the worst. Maybe Catherine had drowned. So they head back and open up the dams and drain the top and the lower section of water completely out and troll the dams and everything like that, remove the water, everything, and nothing. Catherine was not there. So it's almost a bittersweet relief where Catherine hadn't drowned, so she wasn't dead at the bottom of this dam, but she was still missing. So they head back out now after this whole escapade, back into the forests. Now, to put some of your minds at ease, little Katherine van Alst was indeed found alive. 6 days later, on the 22nd of June, what was said to be 7 miles or 11.3 kilometers away from this dam. Now, if you think about that, that's as the crow flies where she was found. This distance was marked as per a map location. Now, as I said, Devil's Den State Park is a really rugged, dense forest terrain. What some of the hunters and authorities in the area would have said, that 11 kilometers are as per the map location. If you were to trek that and walk that on that terrain, it would have ended up being more something like 48 kilometers or about 30 miles, I think they said it was, that she would have had to have walked to get to where she was found, which in itself is completely ludicrous. That distance for an 8-year-old is something uncanny. Now, the searchers that actually found her were a couple of hunters that had joined the party because they know the area pretty well. They've been out there before, they've been doing this most of their lives. And they claimed that, they went out searching, calling for Catherine. And on the 6th day, they, they went out and said, well, firstly, the hunters were saying that they believed she was alive. They didn't believe she had drowned. They said she had about a 95% chance of surviving because, ironically, Catherine went missing in this area, which was known to be quite a well-populated berry field. Now, obviously, my fellow conspirators have the alarm bells going off, ticking off that box on the profile. So they said she definitely did have food, and there were a lot of water sources around, so they knew she'd be fine. And on the sixth day, these hunters saw this little girl come walking out the cave as they were calling for her, and just shout over to them, "Here I am." And there she was. There was Katherine van Alst in nothing but her swimming costume. She was barefoot, again, ticking off that box on the profile, barefoot in nothing but her costume, and she was found around 3:30 in the afternoon, according to the hunters. And, nothing but a couple of scratches and bug bites on her. She seemed to be fine, and what they described to be eerily calm, like a bit too calm for an 8-year-old. However, doctors did say that she was showing signs of shock after she was admitted to hospital, but nothing too serious. She was eventually discharged about 2 days later after being admitted. But what really did stump everyone was, how did Catherine survive? This little 8-year-old from Kansas City that wasn't very well versed in being outdoors in the wilderness managed to survive 6 days in the absolute rugged wilderness. As much as she did have berries to eat and pools of water she could drink out of, which she did confirm is what she did, it still makes no sense. Now, when investigators obviously went to go talk to Catherine and ask what happened, where did you go? Catherine actually, in both stories, has no memory of disappearing. She said in the one story, it said that she was walking. She claims to have been walking home, and the next thing, she didn't know where she was. She was lost, couldn't find where she was, and then obviously in the alternative story, she vanished from the rocks and doesn't actually remember disappearing. But in both stories, they do link up when they says that Catherine claims that she did sleep on what she mentioned to be a warm patch of grass on the first night. Now, the one story says that it started raining and she headed from this grass into a cave nearby. The other story kind of mentions more that first night she slept on this warm patch of grass, and the next thing she knew, she was waking up in a cave, which was on the last day when she could hear people calling to her, and she walked out and they found her. Both stories are similar in the sense that they link up where Catherine claims to not have much memory, one, of the disappearance, but two, of being lost. She remembers the first night with the warm grass, and then remembers the cave on the last night, but everything in between, she doesn't actually remember. She has very little to no memory of any of this and what actually happened to her, which in itself is quite spooky and quite eerie, to think about. There are a few theories, whether it be paranormal, supernatural kind of stories, or more just logical wild animals. It's not specified, but it is believed by some of our skeptics out there that Catherine must have been chased by something. What it could have been, no one knows, but this would explain how she got that distance. Adrenaline would have kicked in, the fear would have pushed her to her limits, and she would have basically just run until she couldn't run no more, or until she found that cave and felt she was in a safe location. And the trauma behind this traumatic experience would have explained the memory loss. So that is one of the theories out there. It cannot be confirmed, as it's not really possible to identify whether something had chased her or not. There wasn't really any evidence of it, but you can't exactly just rule it out on that fact alone. And some of the things that do stand out for me in the story that give me chills down my spine and, make me appreciate my warm bed at night even more is some of the things that Catherine mentioned, was that she doesn't remember seeing any wildlife in a very dense, rugged, very wild state park. Has lots of wild animals, including bears. She claims to not have seen anything, not even bears, not birds. She says she may have seen a turtle or a tortoise at some point, but other than that, she doesn't remember actually seeing any wildlife. Being out there the entire time, that's quite something. And like I said, gives me the chills. That's quite freaky. That seems almost supernatural to me. And the memory loss as well. That is quite a freaky one. That does seem to weird me out quite a bit. But looking at the 411 profile, I definitely think this is one of those freaky cases that definitely fits the profile. I mean, granted, she was found without shoes, which does tick off that box. She was swimming, so it would make sense that she didn't have any shoes. But the fact that she vanished without a trace makes no sense. It's a mid to late afternoon disappearance, disappearing without a trace, being found almost impossibly far away. I mean, that 11 kilometers, which would have been about 48 kilometers to walk with that difficult, dense, rough terrain, for an 8-year-old to get there is seemingly impossible, or at least extremely hard to get to. This case definitely does tick off a lot of those boxes, and is definitely one of the freakier 411 cases that I have come across in my time researching these cases. It was a thoroughly enjoyable story to research, and I really hope you guys enjoyed the story today. And I'm hoping I'll see all of you back here next Friday for a new episode of The Conspirator Missing 411. So for now, thanks for joining me today. Please don't forget to leave a review of the channel on your preferred listening platform. It really does help out the channel, and I appreciate all the support. Thanks for listening today, guys, and I'll catch you all here next time. Bye for now.